Good morning, and thank you for joining this morning's brief webinar that's going to serve as an update on a variety of issues related to the ChargeUp New Jersey Electric Vehicle Incentive Program. Joining myself and Magdalena Padilla, NJCAR's Director of Government Affairs, are today's presenters. We have John Jackson and Tyler Whitfield from the Center for Sustainable Energy. That's the company that administers the ChargeUp New Jersey program. We also have Kathleen Lewis, who is the e-mobility programs manager from DEP. John and Tyler are going to cover several issues related to the program. I think Kathleen is going to handle some issues related to the MSRP requirement at the end of the program, and then we'll take some questions from the participants. Before we begin, I just have a few quick housekeeping details. On the right-hand side of your screen is a control panel. I want you to take particular note of the questions tab. During the call, all participants will be muted. If you have any questions, you can enter them in the questions tab, which I will be monitoring, and then we'll address at the end. Obviously, if there are any questions that are very specific to your particular issue, we'll probably take those offline and have you either contact myself or Magdalena or CSC directly. So now that I turn things over to John and Tyler to kick things off. John? Tyler?
Appreciate it, Brian. And hello, everyone. Appreciate y'all for joining in today. The purpose of this presentation is to give an overview of the FY23 point of sale incentive program. We hope that this program provides some more information on the overall program and how the program functions, and hopefully eliminates any confusion and answers any questions that you all may have had since the program has been opened. If you want to go to the next slide, Tyler. So this is just a brief overview of the program. This is a dealership point of sale initiative in which the incentive is applied to the customer at the point of sale. This is not a consumer direct program. This program does not have any association with the federal EV tax credit. It is completely separate. Participating dealerships and showrooms are responsible for determining whether and verifying that their customers and vehicles are eligible to receive an incentive, and must at least notify eligible customers of the existence of the incentive at the point of sale. So everything done at the dealership. Now, dealers may not withhold the incentive from the customer due to the dealer application for reimbursement pending approval. In the event an app is denied, the dealerships and showrooms may not attempt to recuperate the value of the incentive from the customer. And finally, violations of these terms and conditions, which are on the ChargeUp New Jersey website, will result in the removal of the dealership or showroom from the ChargeUp New Jersey program. I'll give you all a second to process that and take a look at it. And then we can go ahead and hand it over to Tyler. Tyler, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, John. Good afternoon, y'all. Just wanted to take some time to go over the reservation for applications this year. As those of you that participated in years prior, it's changed up a little bit. So this process that we're going to go over is for ordered vehicles that are expecting a delayed delivery, or just might take a couple of months to get to your customer. So this year's program, again, is a little bit different than last year. It allows dealerships and showrooms to submit those applications for ordered vehicles in real time, even if that delivery will be several months out. ChargeUp New Jersey will also be providing some supporting documents following the presentation. We'd like to note here that it's not a requirement to participate in this process. However, funding for those cars is not reserved until an application is successfully submitted. So the following documents will need to be provided in order to get a reservation in for us. We need signed terms and conditions. That form is found on our website. It can also be found in the dealership portal itself when you go to upload supporting documents. As always, we need a copy of a valid and unexpired New Jersey's driver's license. The third document we would need is proof of that order date, where you'd upload that in the purchase or lease agreement spot on that website portal. And finally, we provide a placeholder document to upload in lieu of the registration, as there won't be registration until that car is actually delivered and placed on the road. So let's talk about submitting the application itself. We do have a full step-by-step process and a document that you all can either request from us again if you didn't receive it when we did send it out. So that way there is a basically reference document or manual you can look back at. But when submitting vehicle information, a dealership or showroom needs to make their own 17-character VIN. We have these steps lined out below, but the first 6 characters will always be CUNJ and then 23. The next 8 characters will be the date the order was placed. So for example, if your order was placed on the 1st of this month, it would be 08/01/2022. Finally, the last 3 characters, we need to be the first 3 letters of the applicant's last name. So for example, if Greg Simone ordered their vehicle on August 1st, that VIN would be CUNJ 23 08/01/2022 SIM. So continuing to submit, the make and model this year will be a little bit different for ordered vehicles. The make of the vehicle will be ordered in the dropdown, and the model will be the dollar amount of the incentive you are trying to reserve for that specific car. And again, the date of purchase or lease will be the date that the vehicle was ordered. Here on your screen, you can just see a quick example for this is how it would look in your portal if you were to put through an ordered vehicle that is to be delivered, that would qualify for that $4,000 incentive. If you were to receive a duplicate VIN error, this is the message that would pop up on your screen in red, that an application has already been submitted for this VIN and to please contact the staff for further assistance. This error can happen when applicants with a common last name have already placed an order for the vehicle on the same day. So we're able to, again, create another vehicle using a numerical method below. So we'd start again with the first few digits being CUNJ23, the date, but then the first 2 letters of their last name and then the numbers 1 through 9. So that way we can create a placeholder application for that ordered vehicle. So again, an example down here is Susan Simone might have ordered on August 1st. They have that VIN listed there on their screen, but then Chris Sims also orders the same car. So the last digits are going to be changing from SI1 to SI2 to avoid errors like that. Again, please remember that dealers and showrooms have 14 days after the order is placed to submit the application to reserve funding. It's upon delivery of these ordered vehicles that dealers need to submit the following documents. So we'll need a copy of a purchase or lease agreement that's now fully signed, as well as proof of registration now that the car's actually there on the lot. Please again remember that you've got 14 days after the vehicle is delivered to submit these final documents to us for processing. In the event that an application is missing sufficient information, dealerships and showrooms will be given 14 days from the incomplete notice to resubmit those required documents. Please note though that it's a total of 14 days and it's not going to be an additional 14 days each time something is deemed incomplete. So please do stay on top of these applications. With that, I'd like to hand things over to Kathleen to talk about the MSRP and dealership markups.
Thanks, Tyler. And just to clarify, I am with the BPU, the Board of Public Utilities, not DEP, although that is a common mistake. But it is the BPU. So if you have questions that CSC has not answered, you should go to the BPU. With that, we can move forward. I know that there have been several questions about the MSRP and the dealer markups. Tyler, can you advance that screen? So I just want to be clear. So we put the language up here that you guys should have seen in your terms and conditions. The MSRP cap includes all line items on the purchase or lease agreement which relate to the value of the vehicle itself, included but not limited to battery upgrades, autonomous upgrades, wheel and tire packages, audio and infotainment systems. The MSRP cap will not include maintenance or vehicle care packages, vehicle accessories that don't add to the value of the vehicle itself. So first aid kits, cargo nets, floor mats, those sorts of things. Destination delivery charges, tax, registration fees, title fees, documentations, as those line items do not relate to the value of the vehicle itself, but rather logistics, care, and the maintenance of the vehicle. So it should be relatively clear. We've tried to illustrate as many as we can, but obviously when we're done, if there are specific questions, we can go from there. And then I think we'll go to the real hot topic. Tyler, if you can flip screens. So language was included both in the addendum that we made to the terms and conditions last fall that everyone signed, as well as to the terms and conditions for this year's program, where we tried to clarify a bit more. And this language comes from the terms and conditions. So in order to ensure consumer confidence in the program and prevent price gouging, dealers must provide fair and transparent pricing details. Price markups that diminish the value of the state's incentive for the consumer are prohibited. Dealers may not include markups or market price adjustments for which there is no specific line item or additional underlying value. ChargeUp New Jersey may deny any incentive reimbursement application when the total pre-incentive price paid by the customer exceeds the manufacturer's suggested retail price without justification. So if a vehicle is marked up due to limited inventory, we may ask for additional clarification provided by the dealerships to let us know what the MSRP of the vehicle was, the dollar value of the markup, and an explanation of the markup and proof that that markup is universal and not EV specific. The intent of this language was not to exclude traditional markups that need to be made given the market conditions. If your dealership is consistently marking up vehicles at the same rate because of those particular market constraints, that can be extended to an EV or any vehicle on your lot. If it is specific to the vehicle as a way to reduce the impact of the incentive, that is prohibited. So we will ask you, if there is a markup, we will ask you to show us that that is a markup that is being uniformly applied across the board to vehicles on your lot. I hope that helps clarify. I've tried to make it as succinct as possible, and we can answer any questions. And I can't remember, Tyler, if there is another slide after this.
This would be where I can take it over if you'd like.
Great. I was just going to say, I don't want to cloud it too much with me trying to re-explain. I think that description of the markups should hopefully clarify, and we'll answer questions on it. But with that, I'll turn it back over to Tyler.
Thanks, Kathleen. So just some quick FAQs to kind of conclude this presentation today, or common questions we see are how are new vehicles added to the eligible vehicle list? So newly available EV models will be considered for the program, but the manufacturers themselves, not dealerships, have to submit an OEM vehicle submission form and email it over to this program address. This is also listed on our program website, so that way we can also all work to direct those OEM contacts there. The next question, how long does it take for my dealership to receive that reimbursement? So dealerships and showrooms can expect payment within 30 days after the application approval. Please note that this is application approval. It is not document submission. Delays may occur, but please also make sure that your ACH information is always up to date, so that way we don't further delay anything here. Another common question we get is, how do I edit employee account information in the dealership portal? We do have an SOP, and we'll be providing that after this presentation as well. So that way there are some screenshots there. So if you do need to go ahead and edit who's in the portal, you can do so very quickly and conveniently on your own end. Brian, I believe with that, it concludes this presentation. We can probably open things up for any questions or concerns.
Okay, well, yeah, we've got a question or two here. But if anybody has any others, please please submit them now in the questions tab. I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway to see if there's a reason why. Are there any incentives for electric-powered motorcycles and scooters?
So not through this specific ChargeUp New Jersey incentive that we're presenting on today.
Yeah, and if I could get to my unmute button, I would have jumped. Sorry. No, there are currently no motorcycle or scooter programs.
Okay. I'm just going to wait to see if anybody else submits questions here. I'm sure. I mean, you covered quite a bit. What documents are you going to provide? Somebody had said something about providing some other documentation that we could add. We were going to post a recording of this webinar for anybody who wasn't able to, if people weren't able to make this call, or if there's others at the dealerships that dealers should see. So we're gonna post a copy of the slides, post a recording of the webinar. What other documents are you guys going to provide?
So we'll be providing copies of our basically standard operating procedures for how to get a car that is reserved and you want to get that into the system, as well as how to add or maintain the employees in the system itself, as well as a placeholder document for those ordered cars. That way you can submit that in lieu of the registration and get that application fully submitted.
Okay. We have gotten a few more questions pop up here. I figured we would. I was kind of surprised that we didn't have more there, so I was kind of trying to stretch for time. If someone ordered a vehicle in March and it comes in within the program parameters, are they eligible? That's a no. I think I know the answer to that question. It has to be after the program launched.
Correct. And I will say, we have gotten several of these customer questions, and so I'll just take this opportunity so that you guys can make this fairly clear to your customers. You can provide them with answers on this. In order to be eligible both in year 2 and year 3, you must have ordered, purchased, and leased your vehicle while the program was open. Those rules have remained consistent, and we anticipate that they will remain consistent. If a customer truly believes that they need the incentive in order to afford the vehicle, then they need to conform to those rules. Applicants who come to us and say, I took possession of the vehicle hoping that you would make an exemption just because are being denied. And so your customers will have to make a choice. If they cannot afford the vehicle without the incentive, then they will have to reorder. I hope, and I say that just so that you guys can inform your customers and be as transparent as possible.
Okay. One of the obviously several of these questions are related to the MSRP part that Kathleen went over. By the way, I do apologize. I had DEP written down. I know you're from the BPU. I apologize for that.
That's okay. I just wanted to make sure we didn't inundate DEP with a bunch of questions.
Absolutely. That's a good point. I guess basically they're saying who determines whether the markup is acceptable. That is kind of a subjective thing. I guess I'm just looking for a little more clarification on like how, maybe not who, how you determine whether that markup is acceptable or not.
So CSE will ask you for documentation. I think that if there is so first off, if there is a specific cost that, we ask for a description within the invoice for what it is for. And if you can, show that this is something, and I think that this is particularly important when it comes to some of the supply chain issues. If you can show that this is the markup that you are making across the board.
Okay.
Tyler, do you
the
have
terms
anything
and
else?
Sorry.
I was going to say, Tyler, since you're going to be looking, your staff is going to be looking at them. Is there anything else we
Correct.
should know?
The biggest thing here that we are looking for is that there is just not a markup just on these eligible electric vehicles. That we certainly understand that there are some shortages here, but we're wanting to ensure that the specific eligible vehicles for this program are not being marked up just directly because of this incentive. That, for example, if a Kona electric vehicle has a $4,000 markup, maybe the Kona gas-powered vehicle also has a similar markup as well.
Okay, so basically it's based on availability, not just this particular car, these particular vehicles. Okay. Do the terms and conditions need to be signed by the dealer as well, or just the customer?
They need to be signed by both. So there are spots for both the dealership representative as well as the customer to sign.
Not actually sure about this question. Is the incentive available for stock vehicles or only retail order only?
Oh no, if you have a vehicle on your lot that somebody wants to buy today and put in the point of sale incentive that it's eligible, they certainly can. You will not have to use the reservation program that Tyler just went through. You'll use the standard process for a purchase or lease. And I said that enthusiastically, and I'm going to let Tyler correct any logistical pieces.
Nope, that's all correct. You just use the actual data from that vehicle sale.
I think you kind of addressed this already, Kathleen, but again, lots of questions about the MSRP. Does the MSRP threshold vary by vehicle type? SUVs versus sedans versus wagons? Or is it really, like you said, just clarification that it's being applied, not just to the eligible vehicles, that it's being applied based on if you've got 24 of one particular vehicle, no, you don't need to mark that one up. But if you've got none of any vehicle on your lot, then you're marking up basically anything that comes on your lot because of availability. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for the clarification, correct?
Yeah, we are looking, and I just want to clarify because there's two different pieces here. MSRP is the final cost. There is no difference based on vehicle type. The feds have a difference based on vehicle type for the cap of the MSRP. The state does not. For the markups, we are really looking for consistency, that this is not only being applied to customers who are trying to utilize the incentive. So to Tyler's point, it may be that it's, you know, an EV Kona versus your gas powered Kona. It may be, you may have some other, you've given all the SUVs this particular markup because you don't have enough of them on your lot. You need to be able to show consistency that this is not only being applied to incentivized vehicles. Tyler, do you have anything to add?
No, Kathleen, you got it. It's exactly that.
Does the rebate need to be listed separately on a lease agreement?
I'll take this one. So ideally, yes, if possible, but this year in the terms and conditions themselves, we actually gave you a spot to itemize out that what incentive was given. So if you can't itemize it as a separate line item, it can be put on those terms and conditions where both you and your customer sign acknowledging that incentive was given.
Okay, this one's going to kind of be a good question. I think it might help with other questions that might be out there regarding the markup discussion. So we're not being a dead horse here. Who can dealers contact for if they have additional questions and are looking for a little more guidance regarding the markup of available in-stock units? Who should they contact? Is there a name and an email address? One of you, someone else?
It should be CSE. Tyler, do you have a specific person, or are they just calling the regular number?
The best way to contact us would be to email the chargeupnewjersey@energycenter.org email address. That way we're able to address specific questions or specific instances for how things are actually working at your dealership or showroom.
Can you just read out what that email address is again, just so if they have a chance to write it down?
So that would be chargeupnj for New Jersey at energycenter.org.
And if for some reason anyone, they can always email myself or Magdalena here at NJ Car, and we'll pass it on as well. Does the ordering date of the vehicle need to line up with the EV incentive request date?
John, my connection
within 14 days, right?
My connection.
The order date.
Brian, can you repeat it?
Sure. Does the ordering date of the vehicle need to line up with the EV incentive request date? They have 14 days after the transaction to apply for the reimbursement.
That's
so I guess it doesn't have to line up.
So even for an ordered vehicle, just make sure that you are getting those orders in our system within 14 days of when that customer put their order and deposit in. So it does not need to happen the same day the order is placed, but within 14 days that order is placed, it needs to go into our system.
And I just want to chime in here because, as Tyler said, the ordering system is optional. But if you are not putting them into the ordering system, you are going to need to report out how many vehicles are being ordered. And the reason for this, just so everyone understands, the reason for this is it is allowing us to track how much funding is being reserved so that we can appropriately administer the program. And I think that that's an important piece to this. Our intention is not to have, this ordering system, if we were to have to close the program at some point, would mean there wouldn't be that rush to put everything in. This should allow us to really monitor how much money is being reserved, and will be useful to all of you in providing information to your customers.
Okay. Will dealers have to call when the cars are delivered or to be able to upload new documents? They should just be able to go right back into that application and update it with the newer documents, correct?
That is correct. So CSE is working on the back-end system side of things, so that way those applications will be reopened for yourself. If for whatever reason you beat us to the punch and that car comes really fast though, please do call or email us and we're happy to get that application flipped so that way you can upload those supporting documents.
How do you prove the markup across the board? And there's actually two questions here. I had two different people with two similar questions, so I'm going to kind of ask them at the same time. How does a dealer prove any markup across the board? And then somebody's also asking, please clarify across the board. Is that all vehicles in stock, all electric vehicles? And I know this may be dealership specific. There may not be a blanket answer, but if there is, obviously we'd love to. And again, I'm sorry for beating a dead horse, but obviously this is top of mind for the dealers right now.
So I can take a more general approach to this right now, Brian, as well as that if there are more specifics, they can certainly reach out to us directly via email. We have had some dealership GMs reach out to us basically stating their percentage for the markup across the board, stating that this group of vehicles gets marked up this amount, this group of vehicles gets marked up this amount. We've had other dealerships supply us with screenshots of their internal systems of showing MSRPs of cars and the adjusted price as well, just to give us a snapshot that it is all cars, not just these EVs.
Okay. And this last question, I think, is actually, it's one I could probably answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is there a minimum amount of time a customer must own a vehicle? This dealership's concerned, how do we protect ourselves from being charged back if they sell a vehicle in violation of this? That's the customer signing. That's why they're signing the terms and conditions. If they violate it, presumably BPU goes back to the customer, not to the dealer.
Correct.
That is correct. Mm-hmm.
So you must own your vehicle for 3 years. We are, and part of the intent behind that is the goal of this program is to make sure we're reducing emissions in New Jersey. We want to make sure that those reductions stay in New Jersey. They must own those vehicles for 3 years, which means that those EVs that you sold to them in 2020, you can start going back to them next year. But that is a customer side piece. And actually, I think this is not a question, Brian, but I think it's a good heads up because we've seen this a couple times at BPU. So just so that your dealers do know, when John started the program and talked about the fact that if the application is rejected based on a dealer failing to follow the terms and conditions, the dealer must provide that incentive. And so if that is the case, the BPU will communicate with the dealer to let them know that they must provide that incentive to the customer. Once the customer takes possession and has received their incentive, if the customer fails to follow those terms and conditions, that's on the customer. And we would address it with the customer. I hope that helps.
No, definitely. I mean, I think, and basically it's reinforcing why it's important for the dealer to get the customer to sign the terms and conditions. So there's a record of them recognizing what their responsibilities are. The customer's responsibility.
It's why we have both of you sign it, right? The dealer is responsible for making sure that they abide by the terms and conditions that of the sale or lease and of applying for that application. If those things are not done correctly, then the BPU will probably be and there's a complaint from a customer, the BPU would reach out to the dealership. Conversely, the customer has obligations, which include how long they have to have that vehicle in the state of New Jersey. Those are on the customer side. There are responsibilities on both, and the BPU is going to make sure that both hold up their ends of the bargain.
Okay. And then the last question, I was going to say the last question we have, and then another one popped up here. I'm going to ask mine first, so that dealer's going to have to wait for a second. On the website, the dashboard for the ChargeUp New Jersey program, if you can just clarify the current money remaining in the program. I mean, I know that's obviously a moving target, but if someone can take a look at that. And there's also, we were just looking, Magdalena was looking, the number of incentives per month, I guess trying to just show how many are being done. That hasn't been updated since May. Is there a plan of when they'll be updating the website for anyone, whether it's us, consumers, dealers, want to see how the program is going? Is there an idea of when that'll be updated?
The last update to the dashboard was made on August 11th, and it's made monthly. So, and I'll let Tyler talk a little bit about some of the logistics as well. I will note, because it has been confusing to some folks, so I'll note it here. If you go to the incentive, the available funding page, you will notice that it says $60 million. Which is obviously more than the 30 million or 35 million that has been budgeted for the year. The reason that it says 60 million is because it is a combination of FY22 and FY23 funding, because vehicles that were ordered under the FY22 rules and were entered into the system have not all been delivered. And so we need to continue to keep track of those until we've cleaned out the FY22 queue. And so that is updated on a regular basis. Tyler, I'll let you take the rest of that.
Yeah, so the two dashboards here for the total funding available status, where the $60 million figure is, that is updated in real time. The other dashboard to where Brian was talking about incentive statistics is updated monthly with the date that it was last updated. I spoke to the team here, and that'll get updated again in September.
Right, but I guess, and again, I'm not trying to, I don't want to be too aggressive here, but it's saying updated August 11th, but for the incentives per month, there's nothing listed since May. So, and the program has been active for a while now. So when are those numbers going to be filled in?
If there's data to be provided, Brian, that'll happen in September.
Brian,
Okay,
there also was a,
again,
Brian,
when some, I'm sorry, Kathleen, I'm just saying when someone sees updated as of a certain date, they assume that everything on that platform has been updated as of that date. So it looks like there's no incentives that have been done as of August 12th, because for the monthly numbers, there's nothing there. They're all flat lines.
yes. And Brian, what I was going to say was that there may not have been any applications or orders that were paid out in that time. We had a significant delay in orders. And so it is entirely possible that there were no orders that came in those 3 months.
Okay, okay.
I can also add some further clarification here, Brian. It's this chart only shows approved incentive applications. So we might have actually gotten some in, but none actually were successfully approved prior to the update.
Okay, okay. We have a couple more questions here. And if there's any others, maybe has any others, you're welcome to submit them. It kind of goes back to Kathleen to what when we were asking the question about dealer responsibilities for the terms and conditions, customer responsibilities. If a customer is using the program for a fourth time, they're only supposed to be allowed to use it 3 times over the course of the program, and do not disclose that to the dealer. How would the dealer know that, and how would if the dealer provides them with the incentive, how would the dealer get that money back? Or is there something in there that shows that that customer's already used the program 3 times?
So I'll take this one again.
Okay.
So provided you are actually applying for the incentive at time of sale or when the vehicle is ordered, you are required to enter their driver's license ID in there to check it before it goes in and lets you create an application. If they've received 3 incentives already, that will actually kick back with an error message that they are not allowed to have another application. So we've already seen that happen in this year 3 already.
Yeah, but again, but the dealer wouldn't know that until they're applying for it. They will have already given it to the customer. So now they have to go back to the customer. Well, although I guess at that point, I mean, the dealer's going to get the bad, the customer's not going to be happy with the dealer, but the dealer's the one that has to tell them, I'm sorry, you've already used it 3 times. You're not eligible for it a 4th time. But they're not going to know that until they've already given it to them. Now they have to take the money back.
So I might recommend using that tool
the dealer
right
in a
then
bad
and there.
position.
So I might recommend running that tool right then and there before completing that sale and signing that contract to just make sure their driver's license is not flagged.
Okay, all right. So they can do that. They can do that. They don't have to wait to actually do an application. They can do a search
Correct.
of that
It's
customer.
just a quick check. Yep, that's the very first thing when you click to start an app. So that way that a quick check could be done right then and there.
Okay.
It's also a good reason if they're to make sure you're entering them into the order system so that if they've placed that order, you can check it. And then I would also suggest, checking it again when they come to pick up the vehicle.
And this is getting a little bit specific, but I want to ask this as the dealer kind of has a follow-up question to that. What if the customer's ordered 3 vehicles for whatever reason, has ordered 3 eligible vehicles, but they haven't been delivered? The incentive wouldn't have been provided until the vehicle's delivered. Does the system show applications as well as the incentives that have already been provided? I know that's a very specific scenario. How often is that going to happen? But the dealer would be asking it if it isn't a possible thing to happen.
It's certainly possible, Brian.
Yeah.
So in that case, again, the driver's license would flag and pop up.
encourage everyone to be proactive about reaching out to CSC, and if you can't get an answer to BPU, if folks are proactive about issues that have arisen, then we are very happy to work with folks. It is much harder to do that if we find out about them much later, and they've sort of compounded upon themselves. So I think it's really useful to reach out to Tyler's team if you think that there's an issue.
And likewise, I'll echo that. You can reach out to NJ Carr as well. Dealers are not a shy bunch, so that probably won't be a problem. But that's good to know. That's a good advice, that if there's an issue that they see arising, let everybody know about it sooner rather than later. And then the last question I have here, so any BEVs that we have an order for a customer is, I'm sorry, hold on. Any BEVs that we have an order for a customer is not eligible for the incentive. As long as it's been ordered after the program launched, it's eligible for the incentive, whether it's ordered or a stock vehicle, correct?
Yes. However,
yeah,
I think
the wording of the question was a little bit hard for me to understand here. I just wanted to clarify that.
As long as it's ordered after the start of the program, and it's been recorded in our system, then that money has been reserved for them. I will also, because I thought your question was going someplace else, and I think it's never a bad idea to give more information, I just also want to remind folks that per the legislation, we cannot offer incentives on hybrids after January 1st. So those vehicles that are if they're being ordered or sold, if they're being sold or leased, it has to be before January 1st. If they're being ordered, that order has to be in our system before January 1st.
Right. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Well, I think that's it. I mean, obviously, got a lot of questions here. If there's any others, you're welcome to contact NJ Carr, CSE, BPU. I guess NJ Carr, CSE. If we can't help you, then we'll go to Kathleen.
If I don't have an answer, I may just send you to DEP just for fun.
That's funny. I'll tell them that.
I'll tell them I made that offer.
Right. All right. Well, thank you very much. I want to thank John, Tyler, and Kathleen. Thank you to all the participants. We will put a recording of today's webinar as well as the slides and anything else CSE, BPU want to provide us. We'll put it up on the website for anyone who missed part of this, or there's others at the dealership that you feel should have this information. That'll be up either later this afternoon, tomorrow morning at the latest. Thanks again, and that concludes today's webinar. Thank you, everyone, and be safe. Bye.